Hi, you're listening to This Is Not Your Practice Life. I'm your host, Macie Renae, and we are going on a journey together, my friends. I'm a certified life and emotional intelligence coach. And if you really want to step into your highest self, there are a few non-negotiables you're going to have to learn, and I am just the person to help you do it. No matter your past, I'm here to help you create a more fulfilling future. So stick around with me. Not only will I teach you how to navigate your brain's daily mind drama, but I'll help you actually understand your mind, your emotions, why you do the things you do, and why others do the things they do. Most importantly, I'll help you build the self-awareness skills to create whatever results you want. It's never too late to change the trajectory of your life. After all, this is not your practice life. Good morning. Welcome back to another episode of This Is Not Your Practice Life podcast. I'm Macie Renae, and I am so excited that you're joining me from wherever you're listening from this morning or this evening or whatever time it is in your part of the world. I have such a juicy topic for you guys today. I think you're really going to love this one. And I would love to hear what you think after you've listened. Tag me in it, share it with your friends, with anybody that you think needs to hear this episode, because I'm sure that other people can relate. Really quickly, before we do that, I want to remind you that it is the last week to enroll into the hybrid experience. I am so excited about this program. Remember that it is my advanced emotional intelligence / mindset program that is going to help you step into your power and learn the skills to get and create everything you want in your life. It doesn't matter what things you want to work on, you can bring them to the call in the hybrid experience, and you will learn concepts that apply to every category of your life across the board. And the best part is that you have every form of coaching support available to you in this program. You get to coach with me one-on-one. You get to coach in a group with your peers, and you get to meet me and your peers in person in September at a beautiful luxury retreat. And I am just so excited about it. If you haven't seen the pictures for this retreat house, you guys need to go to macierenae.com immediately and go look at it. So that is not I originally had a retreat house picked out, paid the deposit on it. And it's funny because it just didn't feel like the one. The one that we are now in felt like the one from the beginning. And I just had a hard time getting myself there because it was going to be such a different level of investing, and I needed to do it before people really truly committed or before I knew how many people would commit. And so it was a risk, but it is going to be so amazing. I know the up-leveling that's going to happen just from being in the energy of that house. That house, I went to look and book it. Like I wanted to book it for my own vacation with my best friends and her mom and dad and my grandma and everything. And I went to look at the week that we normally go to 30A because we go every single year. That house is $65,000 a week to rent in the summertime. Like during peak season, Florida season, beach season, summer vacation season, $65,000 for 1 week in this house. But you all get to be there with me and your peers in the fall. It's going to be so freaking fun. So you have until March 31st to enroll into the hybrid experience. Go to macierenae.com to learn more about it, to enroll if you're ready. And if you need a consult call with me because you have questions and you need to know a few details before you feel like you're ready to commit, make sure you do that immediately and sign up for a free consult on my website. I would love to have you. I was putting together the workbook packages for the people who've already signed up. And the group that is coming together is it's the most amazing group of women. and such a powerful room. You want to be in it. You want to be in it, especially because I may never offer anything like this again. I don't know. It's brand new for me. I've never done anything like this. It doesn't exist this way in the coaching industry where you get to have such high touch as at one-on-one coaching, group coaching, and a retreat. Like, it just doesn't exist. I'm the person paving the way for it. And so we'll see how it goes. I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be amazing, but jump on while you have the opportunity. Okay. All right. I'm so excited about today's topic. So we're going to talk about, are you parenting your significant other? Are you parenting your spouse? Are you parenting your partner? Raise your hand if you feel like you sometimes parent your partner, meaning that you are mothering them or you're fathering them, okay? A lot of people do this. It's probably one of the number one things that people come to me for in coaching, women more specifically, where they feel like they have added on an additional child that is their significant other. And it feels really frustrating for them. And it brings a bunch of, it brings with it a lot of pain and frustration and anxiety and disconnection, I would even say, because there tends to be this kind of elephant in the room that they're either addressing or not addressing, but the energy can be felt within the relationship. And so I thought that we could just discuss what's going on. Why are you parenting your spouse if you're doing this? Where does this come from? How do you stop the behavior? What does that look like? And for anybody who's new here, I did an episode that kind of touched on this from an energetic standpoint of masculine and feminine energy. So I don't know what episode it is in the podcast, but if you scroll back a little ways away, you'll probably find an episode on the difference between masculine and feminine energy. And that's also a great one to listen to. That's going to kind of go with today's episode. So let's just start with what typical things come up whenever you feel like you are now mothering, fathering / parenting your partner or significant other. So I think a lot of times it comes from the expectation of what you believe your partner should or should not be doing, or how they should be contributing, or how they should be showing up to the relationship, to the household, to the tasks and things that you all share together, whether that is being a parent or, caregiver of some sort, or just being a homeowner, all of the things. And so what's important to know right from the get-go is that whatever your expectations may be, it falls under what we call in coaching a manual. All of us have a manual that lives within our brain. And it's basically what I call an invisible book of rules for how you think your partner should show up, think, speak, act, behave, all of the things, okay? And we don't just have a manual for our partner. We have a manual for our siblings. We have a manual for our best friends. We have a manual for our bosses at work, or the people that we're interacting with most, our parents. We all have manuals of what would make us feel good in our life if people would if people would only behave the way that we think that they should based on our manual, then we feel like the world would be a better place. It feels very true. And in relationships, a lot of times it's things like, I need my partner to help more with the kids, or to recognize that I'm stressed out and that I'm drowning, and I need them to step up and do more around the house. I don't want to have to ask them. I don't want to have to, tell them take out the trash or vacuum or do this or do that. I don't want to have to do that. But what happens for a lot of women is the idea that if they don't, it won't get done. And if it doesn't get done, then what they start feeling is resentment and frustration and overwhelm and anger and sadness and all of the things. because their brain from that point forward starts telling them my partner doesn't care, or they don't get it, they're not hearing me, they're not listening to me, they don't understand me. And I want to be clear that this can happen both ways, because there's also men in the world that tend to be more, I don't want to say domestic per se, but like they care about certain things maybe around the house or being tidy and organized. And sometimes, they might be with a partner who's sloppy and throws their laundry everywhere and doesn't have the same manual as they do. And so a lot of times in relationships, you will end up with a partner who is the opposite of you, right? Opposites attract. And you get into this relationship where now the things that you're seeing more and more starts compiling and bothering you over time, and to the point where maybe you become disconnected from them, or you're emotionally imploding or exploding, and it just becomes this problematic thing that you feel very overwhelmed by. So here is what I also want to say about mothering or fathering or parenting your partner. It's all about control. And the only reason that you want to control it, okay, are you ready for the truthful thing, is because when you try to control the behavior of your partner, you don't want to feel the emotion of them not doing whatever it is that they may not be doing. So for instance, if you're like, I want them to take out the trash, and they don't take out the trash. And if I ask them to take out the trash, they get frustrated with me. Or if I ask them to clean the house, they get frustrated with me. Or maybe they even say, I don't need another mother, or, it causes an argument. But if I don't ask them to do it or tell them to do it, it doesn't get done. And then I have to look at trash, or I have to look at a sink full of dishes because it doesn't bother them. Or, I have to make the bed. I have to be the one to get the kids at school, or get the kids to school. And so there's a long list of these things that, would feel really good if our partner would help in doing them, or if it was, something that they would help get done. And when they're not doing that, again, it creates all of the drama in the brain. And what actually is happening is that you are unable to control the environment, the other person, okay? And I shouldn't even say you're unable to control the environment, because you can control the environment by being the one that steps up and does it. But I think the biggest thing that happens when this is the dynamic between partnerships is that one person feels like they're always the person stepping up and doing. And that's where the ultimate overwhelm, frustration, anger, kind of comes from, is that they feel like I'm always the one doing it. And, the first thing that I always have clients check in with is, are you communicating your frustrations? It may sound so silly, but there are so many times that I have coached someone on this, and they're like, no, I don't even communicate it with them, because I know what they're going to say. I know that they're going to tell me that I'm trying to, mom them or parent them, and it's just going to make me mad, and we're just going to fight. And so there's the type of person sometimes that is the avoider. I don't even want to ask. I just do, and get frustrated and hold it all in until one day I explode, right? How many of you would say you are that person? I can't see you, but I imagine that there's people raising the praise hands right now in their car or wherever you're listening from, right? Where you're like, I don't even want to bring it up because it's just too much for me. Like, I don't feel like arguing with them, and so I'm going to be passive. And so what happens for those people is that internally the anger and resentment builds and builds and builds. But ultimately what has happened is that you haven't even tried communicating with them. And the reason that you're not even trying to communicate it with them is because you don't want to face the emotions of them maybe saying, I hear you and I still don't want to do it. Or I don't get why you get so upset, right? It's what you want to do is really ask yourself, what emotion would I have to feel to communicate this? because just because you communicate it doesn't mean that, again, they're going to follow your manual. Everybody in life has free will, okay? And they get to exercise their right of if they want to or if they don't. Yes, it would be helpful if they did, right? Like, I have definitely felt less stressed when my husband, it just jumps in and cleans and helps, and I don't have to ask, and I walk in and the kitchen's clean and the dishes are done, and the dishwasher's loaded and the floors have been swept. Like, my husband does that stuff, and I often don't have to ask him. A lot of times it will be the overwhelm that each of us individually feel within our house, and we're like, oh, we've got to clean. Like today, we were talking about it before we left for one of his open houses, and I was like, I need to just like do an overhaul on our bedroom, wash the sheets, like sweep the floors, clean up everything. And he was like, I need to get our kitchen and living room done. And I used to be the person, I think it's really important to say this because this wasn't always our dynamic. Now, sometimes I still get the side eye from my husband that I am momming him. I'm not a perfect human being, and there's times where I feel like he is dadding me, okay? So we're not perfect at this, but I will say that early on in our relationship, I definitely mothered a lot. And I'm going to tell you where this often stems from, or at least where it did for me. Maybe it can help you relate. I personally grew up in what you would call a pretty traumatic childhood. I mean, of course I had great memories. I have, great family that I love very much. However, there were a lot of things happening behind the scenes in the background where I grew up very quickly for my age, and I took on a lot of responsibility that nobody actually asked me to, but I felt like if I didn't, the people that I really loved in my life were going to suffer. So I tend to have already a very mothering, overly cautious, sometimes anxious energy, anticipating what is needed before it's ever asked. And I want to do a podcast episode on that, so I'm not going to go too far into that. But the result of my childhood was often just taking care of things and watching even the dynamic between my grandparents who raised me. Like, my papa is one that could sit on the couch all day long if you let him and watch TV. That's what he does. That's just papa, right? But my mom, my grandma, she's the one that would be like, it's time to clean, right? And she'd put me to work and be like, scrub baseboards, right? And then she would be losing her mind if my papa was watching TV. Like, the next thing you know, it was a household of just pure screaming until he got off the couch and was doing the chores. And then when he was doing the chores, in her eyes, in her manual, he wasn't doing it right. So I specifically remember instances of, like, he would go to vacuum the house and he would turn the vacuum off after he was done, and she would be so at her wit's end. She'd come through and she'd be like, did you get behind the doors? And he would be like, I guess. And she would go behind the doors and she'd find like dust bunnies or, hair in the bathroom that had been behind the bathroom door because he didn't actually like close the door, vacuum, open the door. Or, he didn't scrub behind the toilets and around the toilets. Like, he scrubbed with the little scrubby brush inside the toilet, but he didn't scrub like on the bottom around where, things kind of get stuck on the sides of the toilets and stuff. And so she would lose her mind, and she would always be like, you know what? Just don't even help me. You're not helpful. If you're not going to do it right, don't even do it at all. I guess it's just up to me. And that is what I was raised in my entire life. And it even happened in my great-grandparents' household. It happened in my mom's household. When I was growing up, my family was the type of family that got on all fours and scrubbed the floors with bleach. Not saying that's the healthiest thing to do, right? But like, you could lick our floors if you wanted to. Back whenever I was a kid, like, they were OCD about having clean floors. So when it would get messy or other people would try to help, if you didn't do it their way, it was kind of like, don't help at all. And I talk about this in masculine and feminine energy because If you were raised this way, if this is what you saw, if this was the dynamic that happened in your household, your manual will be really strong for there's a certain way to do it. And when my husband and I first moved in together, so we dated for 7 years before we ever moved in with each other because we were both focused, like we were high school sweethearts. Then we went to college. At first we were at the same college, and then I transferred home and went to a different college, and we both got our bachelor's degrees and master's degrees. So the first 6.5 years, we did not live together, and we did long distance, 70 miles apart. And so year 7 is when we moved in with each other after we were both pretty much done with school and entering the workforce. And we would get into arguments about, like, my husband would tell me, like, I don't need another mother. He would tell me that all the time because he would load the dishwasher, and I'd come downstairs and I had my programming from my childhood, and I would open up the dishwasher, look at how he did it, and I would flip out. I would be like, why did you load it like that? And I was never appreciative of the fact that he loaded it or the fact that he even cared to look at the dishes in the first place. It was like I would lose my mind over it not being done, quote unquote, the right way, right? And women, I find, like my clients specifically, like we do this, right? This has been so ingrained in us based on what we've seen and our lack of emotional awareness, like around just letting things be, like feeling like we really have to control it. And the reason that we're trying to control it is because we're not controlling our emotions. I really want to make that clear. So, like, what emotions would I have to feel if I open the dishwasher and it's not done the way that I normally would have it done, right? I might have to feel annoyance, frustration, maybe irritation. And it's so funny because if you zoom out, right? And I learned this through coaching, because when I was getting coached in my group program, this was like a thing that, the women were much older than I was, or I shouldn't say much older, but they were like a good 10 to 15 years ahead of me when I was in coaching, and I was listening to all of the peeves that they had with their significant others, right? They, like, some of them were even questioning, like, is this the person for me? Because they don't do things the way that I want them to do things. And it's exhausting, and I feel alone in my relationship, and I'm angry, I'm frustrated, and I'm done. Okay. And what was interesting in the coaching was, like, just being challenged to zoom out of the dishwasher view or the vacuumed mist dust bunny view or whatever it is that you're frustrated about. Zoom out and ask yourself, is that really something worth fighting over? Is it really worth creating a wedge over? Is it really worth, having tension in your relationship over? And it wasn't until I was challenged to think this way where I zoomed out and I'm like, do I want to have almost a negative relationship with my husband because he puts dishes in places I don't put dishes? Or he turns them the opposite way that I normally turn them. Like, it sounds so bizarre. Like, people might be listening to this and being like, really? But I see this all the time in coaching, and I really was this way, right? My grandma is still this way. In fact, my husband laughs because one of the times that we went home, she had cooked this big dinner, and I decided to jump in and help clean up. That's what I do. If you cook me dinner, if you invite me into your home and you have hosted me, I'm going to help clean up. I would really like to do that. It's truly not a problem. People tell me all the time, leave it, I'll get it later. But no, really, I want to help you. You have spent all of this time hosting, and I think it's rude to pick up and leave. That's just my manual, right? I think it's rude to not at least offer help. You can have someone say, no, I don't want you to. I want you to either sit and relax or, feel free to go without helping me. But I feel the need to at least ask. So I went in the kitchen and I started cleaning up and helping, and I'm loading the dishwasher, and my grandma comes in and she's like, no, that's not how you do it. That's not how you do it. And I just paused and looked at her sideways. And because at this point I had, had a lot of coaching, so I didn't immediately implode or anything like that. But I was like, in my brain, I was thinking, oh, there's that masculine energy like coming through in her, that there's a right way to load the dishwasher. There's no thank you for helping, or I appreciate you doing that, and then fixing it after I'm gone. It was like, no, you're not doing it the right way. And she wasn't managing her emotion. She just came in, immediately got frustrated with me, starts moving the dishes around. And it was like a visual. What I literally witnessed was all the times I've done this to someone. Not even just my husband, right? But someone where I'm like, no, you're doing it wrong. It's not my manual. And what it showed me is like her inability to manage her emotions, to even be aware of like someone is jumping in, trying to help you. And you are so focused on there being a right way because of the emotion you will get to feel when it's done, quote unquote, the right way, and the emotion you would have to feel if it's done, quote unquote, the wrong way. You're unwilling to look at any of that or feel any of that, and you would rather turn away the very thing that you've asked for your entire life, which is people jumping in and helping. It was so amazing to witness it from a different perspective that wasn't me as the doer. Okay. And it was like, I did say something to her. I was like, I can't remember exactly what it was, but I was like, this is why I don't help you in the kitchen, because you have a certain way you want it done. Either you want me to help you or you don't. Which one do you want? And she just looked at me and she was like, I want you to help me, but that's not how I do the dishwasher. And I said, okay, but you can change the direction of the plates or the silverware. If it bothers you that much, it's going to get clean. It's fine. And it's just like, do we want this rift in our relationship over something really, like, again, if you zoom out, something so freaking silly? Because again, what it comes down to is asking yourself what you would have to feel if they did it and didn't do it the way that you thought that they would, or if they didn't do it at all because they have that choice. Okay? And there's emotions there that you would have to feel. And if you're not managing those emotions, then you're going to feel the need to control. And when you don't feel like you have the control, then you start subconsciously or consciously driving a wedge between you and your significant other, because it gets tiring, right, for the other person to feel, quote unquote, like they're being nagged on or constantly asked something, right? Like, are you nagging them to try and get them to help you, or are you communicating, thank you so much for when you help me because it makes me feel less stressed? Like, are you communicating it in such a way that there's gratitude of like, almost like gratitude ahead of time? When you help me with the kids, I feel so much less stressed. Or when you help me like gather their lunches, or when you help me make the bed, even if the bed looks like a freaking disaster, it doesn't look like Better Homes and Gardens, okay? It's like when you do that, I feel so much relief. And maybe it's not perfect, but do you communicate with them in that way? Or do you nag them like, that's not how you make the bed, that's not how you do the dishwasher, that's not how I pack their lunch, that's not how you do their hair, that's not how you do that? Like, I want you to think of the role being reversed and someone constantly telling you you're doing something wrong. Because I also know that there have been clients who come to coaching because they could never do anything right. And the damage of that, of never fulfilling someone's wishes or the right way, or never being able to amount to what someone else wanted, like how damaging that is to constantly be criticized and put down because you're not fulfilling someone's manual because they're not managing their stuff, right? So I just want to bring your awareness to this. So I want to pose you with some questions that you can kind of ask if this is hitting home. What would you have to feel if they didn't or won't do the things that you've asked? What do you have to face? Okay. Sometimes, and this is going to sound like a big one, but sometimes it's like when you've asked and you've asked and you've asked and you've tried to communicate it nicely and you've shared like, hey, when you do help me with this thing, it makes me feel so good, or it makes me feel less stressed, or I'm so appreciative of you. And thank you for taking the trash out. Like, again, I'm going to side note real quick. There's sometimes this expectation of they just should be, right? And we lose the awareness around gratitude. Because at the end of the day, nobody really has to do anything. It's nice, and you know what I mean? But like there's enough free will to where people could be a lazy potato all day long if they wanted, right? They don't have to do all those things. And sometimes we forget, like with the everyday tasks that someone's already doing, to just be grateful. So maybe they do take the trash out to the edge of the road and you don't have to do that, or they mow the grass, and because of what your expectations are, you forget to just say, thank you so much for mowing the yard. I always feel at such peace whenever everything looks landscaped and pretty. Or I just love the way that our house looks and feels after you've done that. I really do appreciate that, right? Because as humans, we're so motivated by feel-good emotions. And we're unmotivated by the emotions that don't feel good. Think about when you feel anxious, depressed, frustrated, sad. Do you really feel like doing things, right? A lot of times, no. That's when you want to lay around. You want to buffer. You want to watch Netflix. You don't want to do, okay? Versus when you feel really good and you feel really excited and you're happy. It's like those are the moments where you're like, I'm going to meal prep. I'm going to clean. I'm going to, go to the gym. I'm going to go grocery shopping. I'm going to get all of these to-dos on my list done. Like feel good emotions elicit more action than the, feel bad emotions. So when we're trapped in this kind of, well, that's my expectation, they should be doing that, they don't do anything else I ask, right? When we get into that mentality of being frustrated, we often forget the moments of gratitude that can really help shift someone's behavior, right? Because they get excited about doing it because it makes you feel good, or it feels helpful, it feels motivating for them to do something, okay? So the next question that I want to have you reflect on is, what actually matters to you in your life, in your daily lists, right? Things you want to get done. What actually matters to you and why? So like if you want the dishes put away at bedtime so that you have a clean kitchen the next morning, if that actually matters to you, ask yourself why. And what's interesting is that if it matters to you so much, it should feel joyful, or at least a peaceful act of love for yourself to do that task. Meaning that even if someone else doesn't do it, you would find enough joy to do it yourself rather than frustration if it really, really matters to you, right? So like whenever I am in a place where our house is a disaster, and I'm looking around and I'm just like, oh my gosh, we have let this get way out of control, I really check in with myself, like what actually matters to me in order to be able to have the best work week and serve my clients at the highest level. And that might mean cleaning up my office, my specific space, or our bedroom, because that is like where I'm resting whenever I'm not working, okay? And when it really, really matters to me, I don't even feel the need to ask for help getting it done, because I'm just excited to do it, because on the other side of that is going to be me feeling amazing getting it done, okay? It's more so like whenever I'm irritated by things that aren't getting done and I don't want to do them either. So it's like when the trash is piling up, there's sometimes I will notice myself getting irritated that the trash hasn't been taken out, but it's because I don't want to do it and I want them to do it because I don't want to do it, right? And it's like if they don't do it, I'm going to have to do it. And then I get irritated because I'm like, when are they going to do it? Like, when is he going to do it, right? And this is not all the time. This is just giving an example. But a lot of times when we're bothered so deeply by the little things, it doesn't actually matter to us. It's just like a pet peeve of, I don't want to do it either. And so I don't want to ask you to do it. But it's funny because the same way that you have the right to say, I don't want to do it, so does your partner. It's 50-50 equal in that regard, right? You don't want to do it. They don't want to do it. And I love that. I was listening to one of my former coaches, and she talked about why she wants women specifically, but I mean anybody, right? But like why she feels it's so important and such a goal of hers to help more women become wealthy. Whatever wealth looks like. It doesn't mean millions of dollars, right? But it could be making $20,000 a year so that you can hire out the things that both of you don't want to do. So she was talking about how like she doesn't want to clean the house all the time. And she doesn't want to nag her husband or her partner about cleaning the house all the time. If he wanted to do it, he would do it. If she wanted to do it, she would do it. And so she has that immediate awareness of like, I can either get into an argument, nag and complain and get really frustrated, and I can drive a wedge between us because the house isn't getting clean because I don't want to do it and because he doesn't want to do it. And so we can go at each other, or I can make more money and I can hire someone, a third party, to come in and do it for both of us. And it was just so fascinating to like hear that perspective, because it's like, yeah, if you don't want to do it and I don't want to do it, then what is the third option? We need to be making enough money to where we can hire it out, right? Like if I didn't want to cook every single day and my husband didn't want to cook every single day, the solution would be, okay, how much do we need to make to have a food service delivered? Or to hire someone who will cook for us and we can pick it up every week, or to have a private in-home chef, which is one of my dreams long term. Like when I really make it, the way that I will know I've really made it in life is whenever I can have a chef that literally I just give my Pinterest to, and they just look at recipes and they just cook them for me. That's like a dream of mine. I'm so excited about that. I'm actually having a private chef at our retreat in 30A because I think it's such an up-leveling experience. And I think that everybody should have someone in a fancy white coat, like just cook them dinner and clean up the mess and not have to worry about it. So we're all going to calibrate to that energy. Anybody that's at my retreat or in the hybrid experience, it's going to be great. But it was just so interesting for it to be posed in that way, right? Like, I don't want to do it. And I can either fight with them about wanting to make them do it and control them to try and do it because I don't want to, but they're not doing it because I don't want to. So how can we make an empowering decision? And that empowering decision could be, is this a problem money can solve? And if it is a problem money can solve, then we get to problem solving on, do we make that amount of money? Do we want to start putting that money aside? I know a lot of people, even people who don't make a ton of money, who for the sake of their marriages have hired a cleaning service because they both don't want to do it and they both don't want to be arguing about it, right? It's just so crazy. And if it actually matters, you'll get the task done that you want done with joy because it makes you feel good. It makes you feel happy. But if it's kind of like those nitpicky, yucky, I just don't want to, right? It's kind of like, what are my solutions here so that my partner and I are not at each other's throat and like on the brink of divorce because I'm trying to control them or they're trying to control me and we're not seeing eye to eye and we're just, I call it being petty Betty, where our like inner kind of pettiness comes out and we just start picking fights with our partner because we're annoyed and we're agitated and they're not behaving the way we want them to behave. And so we're parenting them, we're mothering them, and and it's exhausting because that's not what we're meant to do in a partnership. I don't want my husband to father me. And I also don't want to be his mother, right? And if you have children, I can guarantee you have been like, I don't want to have another child. And I don't want that other child to be a grown man or woman, right? Because you have enough on your plate. So here is the last thing that I want to say about this. Your work in emotional intelligence is to learn how to be safe emotionally in your body, even when others aren't behaving the way that you want them to. It is a big thing for us to want to control or manipulate another person's behavior, right? Threaten them, put something on the line, like you need to do this or you need to behave this way. Otherwise, XYZ, okay? And so part of your work here is like you can have boundaries and you can communicate those boundaries, and it's up to them of whether or not they follow those boundaries. Again, free will. But it is also your job to take a step back and work on your emotional intelligence, which means creating safety in your body and how you feel despite what they are doing, okay? Deciding what's really important to you, what matters to you. You want to be aware enough to lean into your triggers and what you're actually feeling. So whenever they're not behaving the way that you want them to, and you notice yourself mothering, fathering, parenting your significant other, what are you making their behavior mean? That's a powerful coaching question. What am I making this mean? So for instance, like if they're laying around watching football or the Real Housewives of whatever, and you're cleaning the whole house and they're just enjoying their time, relaxing, eating chips, you know what I mean? And the kids are running around in circles and you're feeling all of the things, frustration, anger, all of the irritation. Remember that what you feel in your body comes from what you're thinking consciously or subconsciously. So a powerful coaching question is, what am I making this mean? What am I making it mean that he or she is laying on the couch, eating bonbons and potato chips, watching their favorite show while I handle everything as always? What am I making it mean? Our brain is really good at making it mean things that it doesn't have to mean. Like, for instance, our brain might make it mean they don't love me, they don't care about me, they don't respect me, they don't understand me, right? And when you allow those thoughts to circulate in your mind, in your body, it drives all of your actions and how you start treating them, and it gives you the result of the kind of marriage or partnership you currently have. If you don't like the results, it is your responsibility to look at what you're creating at any given moment. What are you creating? I know you want to focus on them and their behavior, but I want you to focus on you and what you can control, because that's where your power is. If you focus on them, you give your emotional power away. Every time you turn it on them, you're saying you're responsible for my emotional well-being. And unless you operate the way that I want you to, my emotional well-being is not going to be good. And you're going to pay the consequences, right? And people live this way. And it's so painful and unproductive and just downright kind of manipulative and controlling. Like, you need to clean up your stuff first, right? Like, what am I accepting? Why am I tolerating this? Am I communicating? Are they hearing me? Do they feel like I'm nagging, or do they feel like I'm lovingly asking? Like, what am I needing? How can I support myself? Like, when you've done that work, when you've cleaned up all of that, then you get to decide how you want to move forward. I'm not telling you what you have to do, like how you move forward with them, but I'm telling you, like, you want that squeaky clean, okay? You want to learn how to create safety in your body by going inward first. You want to question what your brain makes it mean about you or your relationship with them, because it's showing you vital information about your core wounds and your triggers, right? If you're like, they don't respect me, where else in your life have you felt a lack of respect? Has it been your job? Has it been from the way you were raised? Like, why is that wound coming up into your current relationship or the current place in which you're at? Whatever your brain is making it mean about them not taking out the trash, or them not loading the dishwasher, or loading it the right way, whatever your brain is making that mean, that is vital information about your core wounds and your triggers. That is for you. And when you get really clean on it and you feel good about your answers and good about why you like like what you like or don't like what you don't like, right? And you're crystal clear and you can back yourself and emotionally feel good, then that's when you get to decide how you proceed. Okay? Because if you don't do any of this work, you will create a villain in your partner when you don't face your own stuff. You will create a villain in your partner. And I can guarantee you that when you married them or started dating them, you didn't do so that like where the narrative is that they're the villain that is keeping you from the life you want to have. You have to clean that up. You have to understand, how did I attract this? How is why is this behavior showing up for both me and them? What's going on? Am I actually, using my emotional intelligence to, connect with them, to understand them, to hear them, for them to hear me? Like, are we using these tools together? Am I using them on my own? What's going on? And when you feel really clean about that, then you get to decide how you want to move forward, whatever way that looks in your life, okay? You can set boundaries, you can have conversations with them. Like if it's really that toxic or, horrible for you, like you could always choose to leave, right? Like I'm not saying that is the solution, but there's always choices. And I think what trips people up with this kind of stuff is that a lot of times your brain tells you, I'm stuck. Like I can't control them, I'm stuck. If they don't change for me, I'm stuck, okay? And I want you to get coaching on that, right? That's a perfect reason to hire a coach, because you want to take your emotional power back. You never, ever want to come and feel like it's someone else controlling your life, because that just means you've given your power away for way too long. And there's wounds that you probably haven't addressed that is making you do that, that's driving that behavior. And the thing about it is, even if you left, even if you decided like this is not the person for me, they don't get me, they don't understand me, if you don't clean up your shit, guess what? If you go into another relationship, you're gonna attract the same thing, because you're gonna keep getting presented with the same things until you grow and stop attracting that energy and that lesson. So clean all your shit up, or you're going to be in the same boat over. And I've actually watched this happen. People who move on because they're frustrated, they're not dealing with their emotions, they move on and they attract it again in a different form. And then they attract it again in a different form. And they're like, I don't understand why there are no good people, why I'm not attracting the thing that I want to attract. It's because of what they haven't cleaned up. It's because of wounds that they have not healed. It's because of behaviors they haven't become aware of. It's because of thoughts and subconscious patterns that they have, never been aware of or have ignored even when they become aware of it. It's feelings that they're unwilling to feel. If you don't clean your shit up, it's coming for you, okay? And usually it's intensified each time until you learn the lesson. So I want to tell you that if you're mothering, fathering, or parenting your significant other, to really zoom out, okay? Re-listen to this episode as many times as you need to. And if you need specific help based on your specific circumstance that I may not have covered here, or I may not understand fully because I don't know you yet, that is a perfect reason to schedule a consult so we can talk about what's going on in your life and why you're having trouble implementing something that maybe you're hearing in personal development or on the podcast, because listening to this is very, very different than actually getting into the nitty-gritty, muddy, messy work that it takes to actually shift it. So you can logically understand what I'm saying and you can hear what I'm saying very clearly, but to go implement it after you've listened to this episode is a different kind of beast, especially with your unique circumstances. So if you need help with anything that comes up, okay, in your life on any of these episodes, schedule a free consult on MacieRenae.com. I will help you figure out what is going to be the best thing for you, even if that isn't working with me. I will always be honest about that. If we jive, if we get along, if we love each other, right, then we'll work together. And you get to determine how long that is. And if it doesn't feel like the vibe, but you still want help, just honestly ask me. I will point you in the right direction. I am never, ever going to try and convince you to only work with me. I think that we can be friends. But if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Okay? So anyways, that is all I want to say. Remember, it's the last week to join the hybrid experience. It's going to be so good. I cannot wait to support you. I want to see you in there. So go enroll immediately. And actually, if you listen to this this Monday or Tuesday, let me look at the dates. It's March. It'll be March 27th / March 28th. If you go ahead and enroll, you may even still have time to get the workbook before we start. I can still mail you a free copy of the workbook. I had originally told people that last week was the last week, but going to the post office, dropping off the first batch, I realized like they're pretty speedy. They can get it to you in about 4 days max. So if you do enroll by Tuesday, March 28th, 2023, I may still have time to get you a workbook. Okay? So schedule a consult, talk to me, email me your questions. I want to help you. I would love to help you. Life is too short for suffering. This is not your practice life. Let's get you to a place that you're really excited about in your life. Let me help you. All right? I'll see you around. Hey there. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of This Is Not Your Practice Life podcast. If you'd like to connect on social media, you can find me on both Instagram and Facebook at Macie Renae Coaching. And if you want to stay up to date on all of my offers, announcements, and inspirational emails, you can join my email list at macierenae.com. In addition, if there's a way that I can further support you in your coaching journey, you can schedule a free 60-minute consult at macierenae.com anytime you want so we can discuss the best options for you. I look forward to seeing you next week, and I hope you have an amazing day.